Hello. So I'm doing something I've never done before, which is just a straight up live video, no editing, no fancy tricks or nothing. Just me talking into a camera about something. And that something today is the entire situation with Vic Mignogna. Um, I might have, I may have jumped the gun a little bit when I wrote the script for the last video. Um, because the end of the video makes it pretty clear that at the time I was fairly confident that Vic was guilty of what he'd been accused of for the most part. But I'm not going to change it because I think it still kind of works in the context of what I was talking about. Um, because these things can still do happen. That the message of the video holds true. I believe that no matter what the performer or artist or whatever does in real life, their work should still be appreciated for what they are, separated from the artists themselves. That was the point of the ending of that video, whether Vic is guilty or not. And as information keeps surfacing, it's getting harder and harder to tell exactly what exactly has been going on this whole time. Um, I watched most of Vic's uh, tearful apology video, which was done at a con or some kind of public place in front of an audience. It wasn't like something he uploaded himself, but and that was difficult to watch because uh, it's really hard to know what to think about it. Because on the one hand, like it seems very genuine and remorseful, and even a little bit taken aback by what he's been accused of. But at the same time, the man is an actor, so it's that might not say anything. I mean, he's literally his entire career has been doing performances, and this could just be yet another one. We don't know, and but at the same time, it's hard to get the image out of your head of a man that's been wrongfully accused of things that he didn't do, or were taken out of context, or were misunderstood. And that image of because on either side of this whole issue, there are two things that I think most good-natured people don't want to happen. Number one, we don't want victims to have to remain silent, and we don't want them to have to suffer in silence for what might have happened to them. We don't want bad people to get away with doing bad things. But on the other hand, equally, if not more so as bad, are good people being wrongfully accused of bad things. And it's very difficult to know the truth, especially in cases of things like sexual harassment, which are difficult to prove because they don't really leave a lot of trace. And even when people claim they have evidence, on the other hand, it can be faked. There are accusations that some of the photos and videos against Vic have been doctored in some way, and I'm not an expert. I can't tell that, but unless it's really obvious. But if it was really obvious, probably wouldn't have gotten to this point. So there's testimony from his past coworkers. I guess to say his ex coworkers now, um, that these things are true. But at the same time, a company like Funimation and the like have been known to be pretty insular. They're their own club in a lot of ways. There's been instances in the past where the whole company culture, it, given Funimation's company culture, what the inner circle of that company is like, it wouldn't surprise me if Maybe this was some kind of engineered scheme to kick Vic out of the inner circle of Funimation or whatever organization, you know, just the industry as a whole. So that's plausible in my mind, especially with the current climate of, believing victims and not believing people accused to be harassers. So the idea that this was all engineered is scarily plausible, and it's tempting to think that it may be the truth, but again, I don't know. And I think the healthy thing to do, what I've realized when I keep thinking about this, is that it's not really our place to know, as strange as that sounds, because we as bystanders, even Justin Briner said that we as bystanders are never going to have the smoking gun evidence that we want, and I think that goes both ways. You're never going to have smoking gun evidence that he did these things, and you're never going to have smoking gun evidence that he didn't do these things. The only thing that matters is how you react to it, and I think the healthy thing to do is to just leave it to the police, and that's the other thing that leads credence to the idea that this was a manufactured situation, is the fact that there are no police reports. There have been no formal investigations, and I mean, why wouldn't you unless you were lying about it? I understand these things can be difficult to prove, but you'd think that for all the backlash, there would have been some affirmative action taken in that direction, but there just hasn't been. And so that, combined with Vic's own seemingly genuine remorse and not understanding exactly what he had done, because it seems to me, if you want my take on it, is that it seems to me that he is a very touchy-feely, compassionate guy who really appreciates his fans and wants them to he knows how much they love him, and he wants to give some of that back. And I think maybe over time he says lazy, I'd say carried away with it, and maybe it could just be a simple matter of misunderstandings of what level of personal space invasion was appropriate, but the same, and if anyone was ever uncomfortable with him hugging them or kissing them on the forehead or whatever, I mean, that's understandable. You have the right to be uncomfortable with that, but those things are not really necessarily criminal actions. So it's if there was actually like groping or actual molestation going on, I think that's another issue. But that always struck me as a bit difficult to believe, because these things happen in very public spaces, where all eyes are going to be on Vic and what he's doing. So the idea that he could so flawlessly get away with these things for 15, 20, 25 years is a little ridiculous to me, especially since it's all apparently coming to a head now, but it's been happening for a long time. I don't know what to think. And it's not really my job to think. So it's hard to have an opinion on these things, and I think that goes to show that I think we as a society need to have a different approach about these kinds of quote-unquote scandals, because for 95, 98% of us, it's not supposed to be a part of our lives. It's a part of someone else's life that is just, blasted to us on social media and whatnot. And I think if we have to have this much energy dedicated to every little thing that every little person does, that's just not a healthy way to live, I don't think. So I've kind of adopted a policy of just not having particularly strong opinions on these things unless, there is actual um, actual conviction, actual police conviction, actual documentation of crimes committed. And I know that's not acceptable to some people. I know some people, we should always believe sexual harassment survivors. We should always believe victims, you know. And I would love to. I would love to. If the world was that simple, that would be fucking awesome. But it's not. You know, it's not that simple because when you believe without questioning, you can easily end up condemning innocent people to terrible things, to exile from industry, exile from fandom, exile from communities, actual prison, you know, and that's not good either, you know. And I think it all comes back to what I said at the beginning, which is it sucks on either side because on the one hand, you don't want bad people to get away with bad things. And I really don't want bad people to get away with bad things, but in my mind, the hierarchy is that I think a good person being condemned for things they didn't do is worse than a bad person getting away with a bad thing. And I know that's very subjective. Everyone's going to have a different view on that, but that's just what I think because both are injustice, but I think false accusations and I think getting convicted for crimes one didn't commit is a greater injustice than simply getting away with a crime. And I know not everyone's going to feel that way, but that's just the way I feel. So contrary to what I might have implied in the video I posted a few days ago, I'm kind of on the side of reserving judgment until actual police convictions are performed. And I think that if a year from now, 2 years from now, nothing of the sort comes out of this, I think we might have a better idea of what actually happened here. I think because if there is so much evidence and there's so much testimony, then I would expect some kind of justice to be carried out. But if we go another year or two and nothing happens after all of this, then I really have to start questioning the validity of those claims. So those are just my thoughts on the whole situation. The video was not really about Vic. It was about just various topics that sprung to my mind because of the situation. But I did say that thing at the end, so I wanted to clarify that my stance on the matter is a bit more nuanced and complicated than that, as it should be, because it is a very dubious situation with a lot of different parties that all have good reasons for lying, and I don't know the truth, and I think the healthiest thing we can do is not act like we know the truth. I think acting like you know the truth when you don't is just a peak sign of arrogance. So I'm not gonna jump on the I hate Vic bandwagon, but at the same time I'm also not gonna raise a pitchfork and say, oh, I'm gonna defend Vic Mignogna as the hill I'm gonna die on. I'm not gonna do that either. I'm gonna be what I am, and that is an unknowing bystander. And for the vast majority of the people in the anime, video game, voiceover, Twitter, any Twitter community thing, I think that's the appropriate response. For most of us, we are bystanders. Bystanders. And it's not really our place to judge, And I think it's unfortunate. I hope the truth comes to light one day. I really do. One way or the other. I don't have a side. Like if the truth is what the truth is. If he did it, then That's that. If you didn't do it, then I think some things need to be rectified. I think we should act on course based on whatever the truth may be. But it's not really our job to play internet detective and figure out what's what. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the matter. Just to clear the air because after watching that video and reading a few testimonies to the contrary defending Vic, I have a more complicated stance than I did when I was recording that video, so I just wanted to clear the air on that. Thank you for watching. This has been Zeke Freak. Zeke Freak out. Ciao, ciao for now.